Welcome to The World Today. I'm Waqas Majeed Khan. Today we're talking about the offer that Khwaja Asif as Foreign Minister has made to India. He said that he would like to offer India talks on Kashmir and all other outstanding issues between India and Pakistan, and we are hoping that the relationship between these neighbors can move in a positive trajectory. So this is what our topic is going to be, the relationship between India and Pakistan. Now let me introduce my guests in the studio. Joining me today we have Ambassador Sanaullah, and along with him we have Yasir Masood. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Sir, I'd like to start with you. You've also served in India, and overall, what is your impression of the issues that are blighting the relationship between India and Pakistan?
In short, the issues would continue to blight. That is the tragedy. Basically, in bilateral relationship, one has to be in a mood of give and take. There is no final position. There is no, of course, there are principles, some principle of morality involved, some ethics involved, and some justifications legally backed, like in case of Kashmir, UN resolutions, etc. But the things have changed so much, and there has been so much uncertainty in the field of international relationship and new adjustments in alliances. And the geopolitical situation has changed so much, so suddenly. The speed is amazing and disturbing, I would say. No country, whether it is in a position to do something physically, can have its wish materialized or realized. India may think that it is stronger. It may think that it has got bigger status quo position. Economy is improving. Pakistan is coming downward. But still, they have to meet, as Khwaja Asif has said, halfway. That is the only way to have a sustainable and lasting, durable relationship.
All right, but at the end of the day, in fact, the entire relationship between India and Pakistan is defined by Kashmir. So, not taking anything away from that, how would you consider Khwaja Asif's statement, Yasir, keeping in mind that the core issue of Kashmir is the burning issue between the two countries? How can we move forward on that?
Waqas, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show again. And yes, that's been happening since this present government, because you see, this present government has taken very high moral grounds as far as peace stances are concerned. So Pakistan has showed up till now that we have showed positive gestures in the region, positive overtures, whether it comes to when it comes to Afghanistan or India or any other regional country. And this has been done over and over again now. And I have even said this many a times in different forums, that it's no less than a shame now that Pakistan has been extending its peaceful hand towards India. But every now and then situation comes back to square one, simply for the reason because India is adamant not to talk about Kashmir. I would say that India is not in a position to talk about Kashmir because keeping all the atrocities which is happening in Kashmir for the last 1 year or so, it is the time for Pakistan to further robust our position that Pakistan has been taking, peaceful position, and then it is the time for the international community to realize that who is at fault. Because if eroding Kashmir issue or taking out Kashmir issue from our foreign policy stance, which works like a nucleus and which runs through in our foreign policy since its inception, now it is not possible, and Pakistan cannot take Kashmir out of this equation, because if Pakistan do that, Pakistan would be in a sort of strange position. Now India must realize that Kashmir is the only, talking about Kashmir is the only way to move forward. Other measures like tagging Pakistan as a terrorist state and then talking about confidence building measures, and then India is also claims and also comes up with other solutions like Pakistan should work on some of the doables as far as peace building measures are concerned, that would be of no use until and unless we talk about Kashmir, because it seems ridiculous to us that Kashmir is a principal stance. We cannot survive without it. It's like a breathing reality for us. We live with it, and we will die with Pakistan, with Kashmir stance. Now, taking Kashmir out and talking about the rest, about terrorism and all that, and then there are multifaceted factors. Even we talk about terrorism, we do not shy away talking about terrorism. But then India has to talk about Kashmir first, and it has to be on equal terms. Yes, we are ready to talk about terrorism and about all the other issues which India feels and which India faces. But then, we cannot compromise on Kashmir. And as Khaja Asif said, that it is the halfway. And that's how things can work out mutually. At least we will take some baby steps, and in response, we will like India to come up with some tangible solutions, and then that's how we can go about it.
Sanaullah Sahab, as Yasir was also pointing out, Pakistan has been making many overtures towards India and Afghanistan to improve our relations. But the constant blame game that emanates from both these countries, it basically reduces Pakistan's overtures to being nothing. And unfortunately, we would like to see some reciprocity, some kind of a reciprocal move by these two countries to normalize relations with Pakistan. Why do you think that these countries shy away from reciprocating towards Pakistan's moves towards building peaceful relationships?
The single word is mistrust. The other word is that Pakistan has not been able to prove that whatever it commits, whatever its leadership says, it means. Unfortunately, that is the biggest problem with Pakistan's foreign policy. That is the reason Pakistan is almost isolated in the region. We must open our eyes and must go beyond blind loyalty if we have to discuss and improve our foreign policy.
So what suggestions would you like to make in terms of improving our foreign policy? Because if as the way I understand it, and we've spoken about our foreign policy on many of our shows, we are following the Quaid-e-Azam's principles that he laid down at the time of independence, and that is of non-interference, of cooperation with our neighbors, and having friendly relations with all countries of the world. That is the cornerstone and the foundation of our foreign policy. Do you think that over the years we've deviated away from it? And then if that is the case, then what needs to be done in order to correct the course?
Of course, we have deviated from the principle laid down or espoused by the founder. We were the first who did the Gibraltar, and that led to 65 war, while our textbooks say something different. Even in the Foreign Office, till very recently, nobody knew that who was to start. What we did at Kargil, everybody know. And the problem is that India is our enemy right from the very beginning. We were a small country, and we were wronged when asset distribution was there.
Absolutely.
And then something went wrong on our side as well. But they were the one who always viewed, and we had to evolve our foreign policy and make it security centric.
Yeah.
But I am aware that Afghanistan was the first and the only country which opposed our membership over there. Then in certain periods, they even threatened, the border incursions, and they also put claims on the Durand line. Principally, their claim is rubbish.
False.
You can rubbish them. But still, you cannot treat Afghanistan, even under the present requirement, as India. India nexus with Afghanistan may be very menacing, very threatening, and very alarming for us. We have to handle it. But there is a tendency now, in order to show your loyalty, motherhood, you must condemn the entire Afghanistan and treat them as a stooge of India, I think that is wrong. They have to be treated separately. We did a lot for them, and of course they also are going to be a main plank and major device in our future plans and strategies. We are no longer interested in the strategic depth theory or the practicability of it, but how the hell we are going to implement CPEC, how the hell we are going to have TAPI, how the hell we are going to have all those railway links with Central Asian relations if we are going to antagonize the Afghan people.
Right.
And then if you are going, if you want to remind me about founders Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah's foreign policy and the constitution, it is written you must have very friendly relations and very special relations with Islamic countries. Now Afghanistan, constitution-wise, is the third Islamic countries, I would say.
Right.
And there are problems. Terrorism is the biggest problem. They have not been able to handle it because of their own domestic thing. So there is a tendency to put the entire blame on us. But we are also not very shy of putting blame of our weaknesses, our disunity, and our inability to control sectarianism here and factionalism here, political otherwise, and put the blame, entire blame on the weak leadership in Afghan. As I said, in both the relationship, the mistrust is the core word.
Right.
How to unresolve this enigma is a problem.
And the same would also be applied towards when we look at our eastern neighbor India. Again, the same word seems to crop up. You know, when it comes to relationships between India and Pakistan, again, we are dogged by mistrust between both governments, one would say. Yasir, what is the way to remove this mistrust? We've heard of suggestions such as improving people-to-people contact and so forth, but when we see people trying to get visas for any of these countries, they're rejected, and it's very hard for a Pakistani to get a visa for India or even vice versa. So how can we actually work towards improving the relationship between the governments? Because we have seen over the years, it's going to be 70 years since the birth of both these nations, and yet nothing seems to have moved forward in those 70 years. Why are we stuck?
Yes, it's still an enigma, and basically it's a big question mark when we talk about India-Pakistan relations, because relations are at stalemate, and this impasse is, all eyes are set that what could be the way forward, how we should devise certain policies where at least both nations and can come up together and let's talk about something. Let's start from somewhere. So this
Kashmir being the most important point to start.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I mentioned, that we cannot, negate Kashmir issue when we talk about peace relations with India. There are bigger dynamics when we talk about India-Pakistan relations and the current stalemate, because things were not very bad since the Hindutva mindset has taken over the foreign policy of India since 2013. Things are, gone from bad to worst. And this is like their official stance now, that they, even if we talk about Article 365 or something like
Article
that.
370.
370. And then expeditions like Ghar Wapsi and things like that, which has been occurring time and again in India. So until and unless India, if they carry on with such policies, things would be in the same wing. As far as Pakistan is concerned, I think back-channel diplomacy is one of the way out where Pakistan can work with India. Then there are diplomatic ways, there are non-diplomatic ways. And we have spoken about it a lot, that Pakistan should, pay back and respond in the same coins. Even if we do that, India would do that in response, and then again we would be...
In this particular case, India is the aggressor and the oppressor. Sanaullah Sahab, you wanted to say something? Let's have that and then we'll continue.
No, basically, we have mentioned, both of us and even you in your introductory remarks, that Kashmir is the
all roads
flashpoint.
lead to Kashmir.
Yeah, all roads. Now, we have to see the comprehensive picture, the big picture. Yes, without it, as I said earlier, no sustainable relationship, no smooth sailing. But there is no guarantee. Once even this is resolved, there would be smooth relationship. We don't have Kashmir between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
But there, the dynamics are completely different, sir, because that's a complete. We can't really compare Afghanistan and
No,
India.
I am saying we don't have the same kind of problem with Iran. You look at the world map, you will have some problems between neighbors. You have to live with that.
Yes, but despite those problems, countries have been able to look past those problems and still cooperate with each other when it comes to economics, especially India and China are a case in point. Although they have a massive standoff occurring in Sikkim, still trade between the two countries continues unabated.
I was going to that because you have to accept certain realities. While don't abandon Kashmir, don't abandon your principled stance. Without discarding that, you can still be friendly with India, or India can be friendly with you. It is, Modi has been versed. Even in this TV, I have said it, as long as Modi is there is very slim possibility of having a very smooth or some improvement in your relationship. But I have been there in 82 to 87, then in 93 I was declared persona non grata. I have gone through the phases of Indira Gandhi, 1984. I would not rejoice that she was assassinated, but had she not been assassinated, there was every likelihood that we could have another war in 1984. These things were so bad. The worst has come and passed away. The worst is happening in Kashmir. Yes, we must extend as much moral, material, I'm using the word material as well, support. And we should remain consistent. And I would again use an objective that is persistent, because that is where we have lacked. We have been extending moral support off and on. For us, Kashmir policy is switch off and on. That has harmed the Kashmir cause much more than the Indian military forces over there. You have demoralized Kashmiris generation after generation.
Well, the new current uprising, sir, is an indigenous situation now, and Pakistan has always contended that we've given them moral and diplomatic support. Obviously, we cannot give them the material support that we would like to because of other problems that we have to deal with on the international stage. But having said that, sir, there are other issues that also need to be sorted out between India and Pakistan, and a bigger issue is the Indus Water Treaty, and that is also being discussed in Washington. But I want to read out the statement by Khwaja Asif, and he has alleged that India and the United States are involved in an international conspiracy to sabotage the Indus Water Treaty, posing a great danger to the subcontinent. That was what Mr. Khwaja Asif has said.
I'm sorry, the new foreign minister has to come off the conspiracy theories. The little he talks about it, better it would be for the country.
Okay, well, Yasir, would you like to also add something to this? Because the Indus Water Treaty talks under the auspices of the World Bank are continuing. We've had one meeting and there's another one next month. How important is it for both these countries to at least sort this issue out nip it in the bud, because this could actually lead to a bigger situation or a more dangerous situation between India and Pakistan, even more than Kashmir. So how should this be handled by the Pakistani government?
Even more than Kashmir, even more than nuclear warfare, because we have been snubbed surreptitiously and hurled by India many a times, even by Modi himself. And this water terrorism is going to be a very dangerous phenomena for the coming days, because there are 5 or 6 major rivers that flow from the Indian soil and downstream towards Pakistan. Pakistan has the capacity of 30 days only, and the international capacity of water storage is 120 days. Now we, on part of us, has to enhance our capacity by building further dams and, for example, Kalabagh Dam and other on the Indus rivers and all that. Now it is a war itself without declaring a war when we talk about water terrorism. And as I mentioned that in the coming days, not even in this region between India and Pakistan, there would be many wars on water, and water is one of the primary, could be a primary irritant between both nations. So yes, negating and violating Indus Water Treaty, and then Pakistan has to come up with some sort of solutions. And as I mentioned, that we have to enhance our capacity, and only by doing that, things could be on the right track.
We also have another situation that was described by our foreign minister, and that was that Pakistan had never been taken into confidence by the international community on the clauses of the Indus Water Treaty. What does he mean by that?
I don't know what does he really mean by that, but as far as Indus Water Treaty is just like an open book to, in front of us as far as international community is concerned, I think the problem is that international community, for some reason, Pakistan has always been on the receiving end. And that's why even I mentioned earlier that international community has to play its major part between India and Pakistan. It's not alone between India and Pakistan to resolve issues, because in this multipolar world order, other states, they need to, club together, they need to unite with each other. For example, like...
That has been tried, Yasir, but unfortunately the Indian response has been very reluctant. They have, in fact, snubbed every other country who has tried to mediate between India and Pakistan on any issue. The Pakistanis have always welcomed any kind of mediation, and it's the Indians that have rejected any kind of mediation, be it China, be it Russia, be it the United States.
Then on part of us, we have to, come out of this foreign policy syndrome, which we have been practicing for so long now. We need to manipulate and devise certain policies because we have practiced that. So if we know that it's not been working, we should come out of this shell. And rather, we should focus on our economic prosperity. For example, CPEC is a colossal project which can, bring lots of, which is a remedy for multifaceted
CPEC
ills.
has also been a thorn in the side of our nemesis, India, and it is very problematic for them. And they also have claims that, part of it passes through Kashmir, and that should not be allowed. So again, all roads lead to Kashmir in one way or another.
Absolutely, but then again, I have a question that why India is so much concerned about CPEC, because if, as they call it, that CPEC is going to be a death threat or it is going to doom Pakistan, then they should be rather happy about it, because...
Well, Pakistan has even invited the Indians and the Afghans to be a part of CPEC and join in.
As well as China. China has been, asking India over and over again to be part of BRI, Belt and Road Forum, and Belt and Road Initiative, but India has been denying. So if India is adamant and carrying on with such policies, it is going to harm India itself. India should realize that. And then also, US as a major player, as a global player, should realize and should come up with its partner and give them some sense that, okay, if you need to have a balanced relation in this region, India should relinquish such sort of policies. Otherwise, things can go from bad to worst. And as I mentioned that, it is going to harm India. Because in this day and age, it's not about wars, it's not about hurling abuses and coming up with slogans against different nations. It's about uniting with each other. It's about economic prosperity. It's about
there's a much bigger issue right now,
accentuation.
and I think most people are oblivious towards it, and I would say oblivious both in Pakistan and India and in fact the entire region. The Americans have shown great wisdom in pulling out of the Paris Accord. So that's going to be my next point. Ambassador Saab, if you could also lean in on this. The biggest issue that's going to be confronting this entire subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the further region, is going to be climate change. There was a scientific report that was published, which said that by 2100, if the global temperatures keep rising the way they are, India and Pakistan are going to be uninhabitable. So what are we really fighting for if that entire region becomes inhospitable to human civilization or human existence? Then where does that leave us, fighting on petty issues rather than collaborating, cooperating, and trying to solve the future issues that are going to be coming up, such as climate change, and there'll be no place for anybody to live. So why can't the two countries, scientists, academics, and other people from the social spectrum get together and force their governments to take a more proactive and productive attitude towards each other? In fact, the entire countries in the region, including Iran, Afghanistan, India, and Pakistan, should be looking towards that sort of an arrangement. Would you agree? And if that is the case, then how can we make it a reality, sir?
I agree with the scientific, not that by
2100, sir.
2100. It would be inhabitable, the entire thing. These are a bit exaggerated. And these kind of findings have been in international journals. But the issue is really very, very serious, especially in case of water, in case of deforestation. And that's why he is right. The next war may not be between both of us, the countries may not be on Kashmir. It may be related to water. But again, while, as I said earlier, while keeping your goal intact, without discarding your position, you mentioned the relationship between India and China. And China kept the border issue, and India also kept the border issue, but they ventured into different other streams, and they progressed. That is a way out for us too, and this is what our Chinese friends have been telling us. If they could wait and introduce two systems by first accepting Hong Kong for 50 years, now the 50 years would be coming to an end, and there is no visible chance that they can convert Hong Kong into the same society as we find in mainland China. And they have kept 50 years for Taiwan too.
Right.
And they have not given it up. They were advising us the same course of action. And they said, we were the same country, but nobody listened to us. It was the Yang Zemin's word. Why the hell the word not listen to us? Only because we have been prosperous. Unfortunately, if you look at the survey, you are talking about the research-based surveys, you will find, if you Google the laziest nation, you will find Pakistan as the laziest nation. Nobody is prepared to do his own homework. And unfortunately, if you Google who are the corrupt, mostly you will find Pakistan in the highest bracket.
Well, that's a long list, sir.
But we are
also India.
Yes, across the board, the board. And if we are not committed honestly, seriously to what we say, what we want to achieve, can we make substantive gains? I think there are too many question marks. Having said all this, now India, Pakistan, we, as my friend has just said, we have to start babysit, and we have to be restrained and more serious while proposing something suddenly. Yes, I would call this message symbolic, Now I'm a Pakistani. I know that Pakistan has been in the business of offering talks very seriously, very honestly, even during General Zia's time. And all along, we have been sincere in our proposals. But I don't take today's announcement very serious. It is symbolic, it is optic, it is a strong message from a very weak government. Because you have to look inward, you have to look at your own house. What as a country you are proposing? You're calling it a conspiracy of India and America. And then you will rub in Afghanistan into it. Then you will bring Saudi Arabia, you will bring Israel. And you will say it is a big conspiracy since we were progressing very well, and all of a sudden they wanted to flaw CPAC. Yes, we should have this thought in our mind, but be diplomatic. Talk in mature terms like other nations do.
Well, that is
there
good
are
advice.
Plenty of problems in ASEAN. I was the first ambassador to ASEAN. I know from first hand, people talk ASEAN is moving forward. I know what are the problems or what they cannot solve, why the hell they could not have the economic community. Why, despite Chinese giving $34 billion investment in Indonesia, Indonesia still in its military exercises take enemy alpha China. Still, there are problems. Everybody wants to benefit from the surplus money they have, but still they doubt their integrity, their honesty, their plans, their strategies, and everybody now are reading too much in Djibouti military base.
Right.
And they are talking about, we say why the hell India is opposing CPAC? Because there are question marks. Are there guarantees? If their guarantees are there, it should be open and transparent that what kind of Chinese forces are going to be stationed over there. Okay, as a Pakistani, we believe, we used to say that China has never in its history had based its forces on foreign land. But now it has changed. It may be for good reasons, they have given good reasons, but what kind of good reasons they can give for stationing their troops or navy in Indian Ocean? While we should say that India has no exclusive right to have a presence in Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is the global heritage.
Right.
And it is as important, its security is as important to us as it is to India or to any other country.
Right.
We should not shy from here, but we should be very clear what kind of future use Gwadar is going to have. Then maybe there is less mistrust. Now I have seen in articles in Pakistani media, impasse, stalemate, or nexus between these. We should realize that equal among
First among equals?
First among equals. And might is right is still the dominant theme in UN.
Right.
It is inbuilt.
The UN leaves a lot to be desired where it comes to what they have done to world peace.
And that is reflected everywhere in every relationship.
Right.
Though we are small, we are militarily strong, we should have faith in our army, military, and whatever they say. But at the same time, we should be together as a nation too. At least in some national interest, national causes. Internally,
as well as
internally we can rubbish each other, no problem. Because within the family.
But don't you think that that is the case, sir? And one of the other things that Mr. Khwaja Asif has said that he asked Delhi and Kabul to support Islamabad's peace initiatives. Now, how can we actually convert this desire of support for peace coming from Delhi as well as Kabul? Is there any way forward to that?
What are the peace initiative he is talking about?
Well, when it comes to Afghanistan, we're talking about fencing the border and having better border management, not letting people who are crossing the border, such as terrorists, into each other's territories and so forth. And similarly with India, you tell me, sir, you served there for 5 years and
in
more.
Afghanistan, you have got 2,680 kilometer area.
Right.
And you are going to have border management on 17 posts. The other day, we have received a delegation from Afghanistan. And as it has been given in our media, I have no direct link with anybody, so I can read from the media and can think, ponder what is behind it. We seems to be satisfied. Very positive coverage. Neither your government is powerful enough, nor the government on the other side to plug all the porous points. And then neither both the government can inspire the people who are in the business of continuing the
Terrorism, you mean?
Terrorism, as well as the tension and I would say extreme views of dividing and reaping the benefits of the continued chaos and tension. Both the government does not have the capacity. So there is no way either of them can win it or finish it very quickly.
Well, that is why we insist on cooperation.
They have to sit together,
right,
and make commitment to each other what they can deliver, not over-exaggerate.
Right. So that you think is one of the problems that blights the relationship, because they're too ambitious and they should be more realistic.
Pakistan promised too much, gave too much in feeling that they can control this element, that element, and they have shown something as well by bringing the antagonized or some not very readily, I would say, those who volunteered to come to Murray, they were forced to Murray. Pakistan should be realistic while making commitment.
So that's an important point that's come out from Ambassador Saab's conversation. Yasir, in your opinion, what was your thought process?
Yes, I think it is only possible when we talk about Afghanistan and India both, like Kabul and New Delhi, when India should stop acting like a fake hegemon. Because if India keep on doing that, and then it's not about India alone. Unfortunately, Afghanistan has been treated like a subordinating state from all of the neighbors. I won't blame India alone. There are certain policies, in spite of sacrifices, I think so Pakistan is the only country which stood up against odds and which stood up and shoulder to shoulder with Afghanistan. But then there are, from Afghanistan, from Kabul, there are certain concerns. We should listen to them. And then again I would say that if Afghanistan carries on with India as far as this evil alliance is concerned, it is going to hurt Afghanistan the most. Because when we talk, you see, in a region, it's not about a one state alone. If there is unrest and turmoil in Afghanistan, it will have negative implications in the entire region, because one unit as a state have positive as well as negative implications. For example, like for the peace and prosperity, peace is directly linked with the regional prosperity. And if we take the examples of Europe and the whole European Union, they have learned from their worst practices of wars and wars with each other. Then a time came when they realized that yes, enough we have had enough. Now it is the time for mutual coordination and peace and prosperity. So yes, for Pakistan as well as for India, as well as for China and or for the entire region, all of the states, all of the regional players should sincerely work together so that peace could prevail. And now we have spoken about it before as well, that we do not understand the US rationale over there, that why US is extending its stay. It's more than about 17 years now, the longest stay of Americans' history. Now, if US as a global player is not working out some solution for the peace and prosperity in Afghanistan and leave the region in a ditch, so it means that it will crop up further, a situation where Pakistan and the rest of the countries will sort out this issue. So yes, for Pakistan, for India and for Afghanistan, it is important that we should sincerely work together, because, and as I mentioned, that peace is only possible if Delhi is sincere for the peace in Afghanistan. Pakistan has been doing a lot, but there are certain concerns from Afghanistan, as I mentioned. We can work on that, and then we are natural neighbors. Neighbors cannot be changed. So New Delhi and Kabul are not neighbors. So we have a primary responsibility towards Afghanistan, but we should get the positive response from Afghanistan, and through this, I think peace can prevail in the whole region.
May I say something?
Please.
First, India is no doubt hegemonic. It has its own designs. It does not feel in league with Pakistan. It finds itself and projects itself in league with some higher regional, bigger, major powers. But unfortunately, we are also hegemonic towards Afghanistan. You look at our entire relationship. Even my friend has used certain phrases. If I'm a Afghani, I will object to it. I will object to it. What kind of responsibility you have to a smaller nation? This is what India has been saying, that treat me as a bigger brother. And we always objected. I said, we used to say, there is no big or young brotherhood here. We are neighbor, equal, principle, UN principle, equality. And other phrases he has used are quite objectionable. And this is the kind of phraseology which beef up the mistrust which exists between the two countries. That we have linked entirely our relationship to Indian role in Afghanistan.
Which has been proved, by the way, sir.
Yes.
To some extent.
Which other country which is inimical or hostile to you would not harm you? So Pakistan would do the same.
Right.
China has been doing the same. Have we forgotten about the invisible hands, invisible governments?
Right.
They are there. We have to guard. How many agencies are there? 17, 18 agencies are working here. Common people know about 3 or 4 countries. Even our best friends are working against us, our interest, furthering their own interest, maybe strategic, maybe tactical, maybe just to create nuances.
Well, sir, unfortunately, we're almost out of time. So just very briefly in conclusion, what should be the trajectory of improving relations between India and Pakistan? What are the basic steps that we need to take so that we can move on a path of peace?
Basic steps are the same, baby steps. And while keeping your main, massive and the higher aim intact, don't give in. And be consistent, be persistent. Don't start cuffing. Don't subject your perennial and eternal, unchangeable, unerasable interest to your daily gains, political gains. Kashmir, water are not the issue which should be used to get vote bank. That should be the common agenda, and it should appear as the core of political agenda of each party. We should not be insisting and saying that army, military, and foreign affairs and others are on one page. Is there any other option?
Yeah, the entire country needs to be on the same page, and I think that is the most important thing.
No, I question. I think even we can make different, we can have differences, we can have different interpretation. But I have served in the Foreign Office for 34 years. I have never been in doubt that all these agencies, all these wings of the government have never been on one page as far as our main
national interest is concerned. Would you go so far as to say that? Yes, Yasir, very quickly.
I think both nations, they must bury their chronic contentions which have been decaying their relations so far. So if they want to have a better relations, if they want to improve it, I think the mantra has been coming from Indian side as well, that aao kuch naya karen. So it's very important for us as well that we should do something new, so that a new start, a new beginning can be started, and then we can put a new milestone of relationships.
And maybe in order to take this relationship forward, we need to start thinking out of the box.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking out the time and being on the show. Well, you heard the conversation, and in conclusion, we'd like to say that the only way forward for both India and Pakistan is to bury the hatchet and move together towards the future in a cooperative way. With that hope and on that note, it's goodbye.